Tennessee This Week from WATE 6 on your side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. Good to be with you. I'm Don Hudson. You know, change is a big part of the work at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, conducting cutting-edge research that has the prospect of really changing the world. Soon the lab will undergo a different sort of change, one in leadership, with Director Thomas Zakaria about to retire. WAT 6 on your side's Kristen Gallant caught up with him before he says his final farewell.
You have worked for ORNL for 30 years. So what was it like when you started, and what is the most thing that you're impressed with in?
I joined the lab as a postdoc in 1987, a completely different time. The lab didn't look anything like this. If you can imagine an old World War II kind of a place, turnstiles, barbed wire fence. And so the transformation that has occurred in the last 20 plus years of this laboratory has been impressive. Transformation in terms of recreating this amazing scientific institution for the future as a modern facility. But I'm always impressed with the people. We also have really talented staff who come to work here every day to perform their life's work.
Publicly supported research comes with its challenges, as you know. We've got to keep the funding coming, obviously, and that's easier when you have something to show to lawmakers and political opponents. But when it comes to things you can't see, how do you sell that?
Obviously, most recently during the pandemic, we used our supercomputers as well as our spallation neutron source to study the virus, to help develop, therapeutics for the future. But we also worked with, in fact, our partners at University of Tennessee to develop, materials for N95 materials for masks when we needed them the most. And so we 3D printing electric cars. Those technologies have been transferred to industry so that they use it for day-to-day applications. So today, one of our biggest challenge, if you think about it, is that let me connect you to real-world events. The isotopes that we produce here at this laboratory, using our high-flux isotope reactor and hot cells, labs here, produce life-saving isotopes of cancer therapy, right? I mean, millions of people have been helped because of that. Deep space exploration, Mars rover is powered by plutonium-238, which is an isotope produced here. When you go through the TSA checkpost, when they swab your hands to see whether there's chemical explosive, that's materials produced here. And so, because since the war in Ukraine and some other global political challenges, Oak Ridge has been called to do more and more in whether it's energy security, decarbonizing the world, or national security, or as I mentioned, isotopes. So, I mean, certainly I can tell you that my family is most impressed by the fact that this laboratory helps with the Mars mission so that we can see what's going on out there, or help with microelectronics so that we can continue to lead the world in information technology.
So you've got the world's fastest supercomputer here at ORNL. You're not playing video games on it, or are you?
Well, I cannot tell anybody if we are playing video games or not, but no, actually our staff comes to work and really try to solve important problems like cure for cancer or COVID-related activities, developing new materials, studying climate and its impacts on humanity. So essentially solutions for the now and into the future. I always think about supercomputers as time machine. Allows us to go forward in time 20 or so years before the kind of power that Frontier has becomes commonplace. So what we do here with Frontier gives America a 20-year head start, the rest of the world, so that we can put that innovations to good use and create jobs here in East Tennessee and in the U.S.
ORNL's research is global, and people from all over the world come here to do science. But this place was born out of the Manhattan Project. So in a community that was once the secret city, Y-12 is still just around the corner. Not all of the research conducted here can be shared with the world. That's not just for nuclear research. These days, intellectual property, whether it's computer code or engineering knowledge, can give a company or a country the edge. So some are willing to do whatever to get it. How do you balance the needs of research with the need to keep crucial information out of the wrong hands?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and we always try to do the responsible thing in stewarding taxpayers' investment in these innovation and technology. But science is a collaborative sport, right? And so, for instance, when we perform research, we're building off of the body of knowledge. And so it's really important for science and scientists to collaborate, invite the best talent from all over the world to be here so that we can build off of their expertise. But that does not mean that we should be smart about how we collaborate and how we integrate to protect the intellectual property that gives the United States an edge, but also East Tennessee an edge. My vision, my dream for East Tennessee is that building off of the investments that the government is making at Oak Ridge National Laboratory at Y-12, but also with our partners at the University of Tennessee and TVA, we can, over the next decade, make this the go-to place for innovators and entrepreneurs to come here and create new jobs so that East Tennessee can continue to become the kind of place that my family have enjoyed. We have lived here 35 years, really benefited from the generosity of this community, raised two children who are very productive citizens in the community. And so I would like to continue to give back to this community that has given so much to us. That our partnership with industry in deploying Summit or Frontier directly helps American consumer, because the technology that we develop in partnership with industry that goes into Frontier is immediately going to begin to show up in your laptops and your desktops, but also in smart cars, right? I mean, so Tesla uses these GPUs and CPUs in their cars to do autopilot kind of effort. So you have that immediate access to this technology, but then in aggregate, the capability of Frontier will be with you in your mobile phones about 20 years from now. So there's a long game as well as the short game, and essentially that keeps America at the forefront.
From a personal level, what do you hope that you take away from this experience, your 35 years here, and what do you hope that you leave with your coworkers?
Well, I think, first of all, I take away that, leave with gratitude for the 35 years. I've always said this Oak Ridge National Laboratory has a soul. And what I mean by that is that each of us, when you build a 35-year career, we lead very, very real lives. And from time to time, you need the help from others. And this is an institution where our staff willingly support our coworkers. But what I really want to leave behind, if I have a message for my colleagues at this laboratory, is that we have an amazing, amazing heritage from, 80-year heritage from the Manhattan Project of not only scientific innovation, but also empowerment. People don't talk about the Manhattan Project as an empowerment of women, but when we had 80,000 people working here, we relied on women, diverse background, and we need to build off of that heritage. And so I hope that the laboratory not only continue on its path of innovation, changing the world because of the innovation here, but also will become an exemplar, a leader in attracting diverse talent, diverse leaders, because an inclusive laboratory is going to continue to move forward and continue to change the world in meaningful ways. The lab has grown substantially. We have added about 1,500 staff in the last 4 or 5 years. These are well-paid jobs, really talented people that not only enriches the laboratory but also enriches the community, supports the school, supports the community. We are a giving organization. We are a giving community. So I think my hope, my aspiration is that ORNL, together with our partners at University of Tennessee and TVA, will continue to lead our community to be that beacon on the hill that will attract talented people to come together and be part of this community and continue to enrich us.
Dr. Scaria is scheduled to retire at the end of the year. It will be up to the Board of Governors for ORNL management contractor UT Battelle to find his successor. Our panel of pundits is coming up next. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. It is time now to talk to our political pundits. We have George Corda, who is our political analyst, Craig Griffith, our healthcare analyst, with us. Craig, welcome back. It's been a few weeks since you've been on the show with us.
Glad to be here.
Good to have you. Hey, let's just look ahead, crystal ball, the election. If the Republicans win both the House and Senate, what do you see the impact that is on maybe federal money or on the state of Tennessee versus if maybe they win the House but don't take the Senate?
Well, if they don't, I think that most of the people in terms of Oak Ridge are aligned with the mission to keep the science coming out. So I don't know that even with a split House and Senate, or with a unified House and Senate, that you're going to see a substantial drop in the funding for that organization. Now, there are other things that might not make it through the House and the Senate if they're split. So it's a very tenuous future.
Well, since spending bills start in the House and Tennessee is Republican dominated, and if Republicans are in charge of the House, the places you'll probably see get squeezed a little bit are not run by Republicans. In all likelihood, there'll be states like Illinois and New York and California that will find suddenly that some of the funding they've gotten used to is not going to be there. That doesn't mean there won't be infighting among Republicans as to who will get what share of the pie, because the United States has been on an unlimited spending spree.
Right.
And it was Herbert Stein, I think, was the economist who said, that which cannot go on forever will stop. And it's going to stop. And Republicans are going to block or try to block a lot of what Biden wants to spend money on, because we've spent trillions upon trillions of dollars in the last 2 years. And we're in an even more desperate financial situation than we were when Obama left office and when Trump left office. So something will give at some point. The question is, who's going to get what's left of the pie?
And we know that like East Tennessee is getting a slice of that pie right now for infrastructure money, $141 million for the electric car battery plant. Should we be concerned, though, looking at this, say, oh, that means we won't get any more of this, or should we be glad that we're not getting any more federal money?
Well, the money, we're in such debt that at some point in time you have to make, big boy decisions on what you're going to fund. And I'm not sure that even with a Republican House, they're going to be strong enough to make those decisions because they benefit their districts. The last thing they're going to do is cut a program that goes to their district. They want to cut money maybe that goes to New York or California, but not to the districts in Tennessee or in Florida or places like that. So it'll be interesting to see. But I would bet nothing will change. There'll still be money flowing that we don't have.
Well, right now, in our names, the government is borrowing more than $1 billion a day, every day, weekends, Sundays, and holidays, to keep the doors open. It's more like 1.1, something like that. And the Congressional Budget Office says that within 10 years, we're going to add $8 trillion to the interest we're paying. Right. Or we're going to add $8 trillion to the money on which we're paying interest, and interest alone, paid by American taxpayers, will reach $1.2 trillion a year. That's before you pay for defense, for roads, for education, for any darn thing that the government pays for. So we are sinking into an abyss. And when people are really do start to be told, we can't afford to give you the stuff you've gotten used to getting, then there's going to be a lot of screaming and yelling, and it's going to be ugly, and it's going to get bare knuckle, because we're spending $1 trillion+ a year more than we're taking in, and you cannot keep that up indefinitely.
A bigger question, if and it doesn't matter who gets elected, who is in control, a lot of the experts, a lot of the billionaires are saying we're headed to a recession. There's no stopping it. It's going to happen. Do you see it that way? And again, no matter who's in charge, because it's going to happen soon enough that there won't be much difference. Doesn't really matter who's in charge at that point.
That's the only way to really slow down inflation. That's the only really significant way to slow down inflation. When my wife and I moved to Tennessee, we bought a car a year after we got here. This was in '82. We paid 17% on a loan because of interest rates. The prime rate was above 20%. We bought a house in Nashville. Our mortgage payment was based on 14% interest rate when we closed on the house. Wow. People who are younger, they have no idea how bad it can get. And that's how you fight inflation. You raise interest rates, you slow the economy, unemployment will go up, and inflation over time subsides. And I don't believe a blessed thing the government says about inflation anymore, since they said it was, oh, it's just transitory. Now it's embedded. And how high or how bad it's going to get, hopefully not, but we don't know.
Well, by several classical measures of the economy, the economy's been in a recession for a couple of quarters already. But it's a very different recession than your grandfather's recession. Yes, you've had declining growth, but you've also had a strong job market, and you also had corporate profits that are actually at record levels. So my concern is that the money people, the Fed and the government, are doing the same thing they do for recessions, and this is not the same type of recession. We're already, last week it was reported, we're already in a housing recession because housing sales have gone down with the interest rate going up. So, you have this issue, is inflation worse than I can't get my money out of my house because no one will buy it because interest rates are so high? So I think that there need to take a look at what the tools are in the toolbox to handle this issue.
Yeah, and I don't mean to make it personal, but I'm in that same thing. I'm trying to sell a house right now, and it seems like because of interest rates, it's getting harder and harder. We're going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back to talk about some more subjects here on Tennessee This Week. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. We are now going to discuss the strategic petroleum reserves. President Biden again saying that he is going to try to help bring gas prices down by releasing 15 million barrels of oil. We use like 9 million just for our cars, another 9 million for petroleum products. Is this really going to have any impact?
No, it's a pre-election gimmick. And here's the reality of it. What the Biden administration is essentially admitting is, if there's more oil, there's lower prices. And what they're playing with is our ability, the United States' ability to respond in the case of a really honest to goodness, serious emergency. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve came about in 1975 after the 1973-74 oil embargo by Arab countries. And the Strategic Petroleum Reserve under the Biden administration is today at a lower point, the lowest point it's been since the mid-1980s. It's supposed to have about 700, it can have up to 700 billion barrels. It's now down to, I think, 475 billion, and they're taking more out. And here's what Biden's not doing. He's not asking oil company executives to come to the White House and saying, what do we have to do to get more oil? He's gone to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia stuck their finger in his face. And now there's some discussion that maybe the United States will approach Venezuela, that socialist dictatorship hellhole, for more oil. What we're not doing is talking about increasing domestic production. Because if we were to do that, the left wing of the Democratic Party would go berserk. So we're doing these gimmicks with this oil, and you know what? We're going to have to replace it. And the last thing I want to say is a few months ago, it was said by the White House, or indicated by the White House, that when gas prices came down in the fall, which is now, they were going to start restocking the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Instead, they're taking more oil out of it. And if we get into another embargo type situation or a serious worldwide catastrophe, we are cutting our own throats.
Well, the reality is that there's very few levers that the American government has that can pull that can reduce the price of gas at the pump tomorrow. Letting out a little bit of gas from the strategic reserve may have a penny or two reduction for a short period of time. But the factors that determine the price of gas are global in reach, and it's run by people who have their own best interests in mind. Like Saudi Arabia could, produce more oil, but they're fine with the profits that they're getting off the oil now. And they are, because of the war in Ukraine, Russia is influence on the world market. It's a very difficult thing for the president to be. And in all likelihood, it'll probably cost the Democrats control of at least one house, and maybe both.
Since we are a political show, let's talk politics. A lot of candidates, incumbents, don't seem to want to show up to debates. I was a moderator to debate this week. 14 candidates were invited. 7 of them showed up. I know the governor is not debating. His challenger outside the state, you see the high-profile ones like Katie Hobbs versus Carrie Lake in Arizona not debating. Do you think that candidates owe it to their two voters or voters that they want to get out there and go one-on-one with their challengers?
Well, the candidates have one goal in mind. Their goal is to win, and they're going to make the decision that whatever helps them win, whether it's debating or not debating, is the decision. There's no law that says you have to debate. So I think it's also somewhat a good example of the safe districts that have been drawn, both at the state level and at the federal level. There's actually very little turnover in seats in the state House or Senate or the U.S. House or Senate. So there's really not a reason for an incumbent to risk making a catastrophic mistake in a debate. And so I think that the way they've drawn the districts is going to reduce the number of people that will participate in debates in the future.
Well, there's an old saying in politics: when I feel the heat, I see the light. And right now, there's no heat on any candidates for not debating. There's not a daily media pounding on candidates for not being willing to debate. There's no what's Governor Bill Lee hiding on daily editorial pages and in coverage. So there's no heat there being brought to bear on him. And as a result, there's no compelling reason. 538, which is a very respected political analysis site, gives Bill Lee a 99% chance of beating Justin Martin. Okay, there's no percentage in Lee going out to debate. The only thing that he can do is get himself in trouble. And he didn't like talking to the media anyway. So getting up in front of the whole state and talking about things where he might goof is, that's garlic in front of, I'm not calling him a vampire, but you know what I'm making here. And he just, in local races, so somebody comes out, they sit there in front of 30 or 40 people. Maybe there's a blurb about something that was said. And if they say something wrong, it's a lot worse than saying something right. And so as a result, there's no heat. Therefore, nobody's seeing the light. And is it in the voters' interest? Yeah, sure. But that ain't carrying the day.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the political calculus. Instead of sitting in wherever building you're at and debating for an hour and 15 minutes, you're much better off going out and knocking on 25, 30 doors
Right.
to get your point across to the individual voter. So the math doesn't work out for people in going to debates.
Well, guys, that was a great discussion on several topics. Want to thank you once again for taking time to sit down with us and have these discussions. And we want to thank our audience for watching. You've been watching Tennessee This Week, and we'll see you next week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.